Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, Zain Pyarali joins us in studio to talk Indiana basketball.
And the Indiana men's soccer team begins their tournament run towards a 9th national championship. This is Hoosier Sports Night. Welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Michael Tilka.
And I'm Lydia Knoll. The Indiana football team is preparing to play their final home game of the season this week when they play host to the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
The Hoosiers need to win both of their remaining 2 games to become bowl eligible, and our Joe Canner will tell us what to expect in Saturday's game.
Well, the Indiana Hoosiers, fresh off their first Big Ten Conference win of the season, continue their charge toward bowl eligibility. But to do that and take the next step, they'll have to defeat the Rutgers Scarlet Knights at Memorial Stadium on Saturday.
Finished really, really well, and I think that this team will be remembered as a team that played a very, very difficult schedule, but finished well.
The Hoosiers ended their 4-game losing streak with a road win against the only team in the Big Ten without a conference win. It remains to be seen, however, if the team is improving or if they simply got the better of a clearly inferior team. The Hoosiers open up as 11-point favorites at home, and while both teams come in with a record of 4-6, Rutgers has 3 conference wins, one of which is over Maryland, a common opponent that defeated IU. Chris Ash in the process of turning Rutgers around. He has the team on pace for their most wins since 2014. He has won several conference games and has the Scarlet Knights threatening for bowl eligibility, something no one expected coming into this year, especially given what he inherited. The team still ranks dead last in the Big Ten in total offense, but the defense under Ash has been able to generate turnovers. For Indiana offensively, they remain a team without an identity. Shuffling in at the quarterback and running back positions has left major question marks on a weekly basis for Mike DeBoard's offense. The good news for Indiana, their defense is starting to generate turnovers. Veterans Rashard Fant and T. Gray Scales forced 3 turnovers last week at Illinois and helped hold the Fighting Illini to just 14 points, the second fewest amount of points they've allowed all year. The key to Saturday's matchup will be which offense can get into rhythm early and avoid turning the ball over in the cold conditions. Reporting for IUS TV, I'm Joe Canner.
That game will kick off at noon Eastern Time on the Big Ten Network, and you can also listen live to Jack Grossman, Luke Hallett, and Michael Ramirez, who have the call for WIUX.
IU men's soccer is seeking a quick turnaround following its recent defeat, after finding out its potential opponents during the NCAA tourney. Juan Alvarado tells us his thoughts on the team, as well as what Hoosier fans should expect.
So close, yet so far away. This was IU men's soccer scenario after losing 4-2 in the penalty shootout against Wisconsin in the final of the Big Ten tournament. The pain of losing a championship was noticeable among the Cream and Crimson side on and off the field.
Yeah, it sucks. That's all I can say. It sucks.
Every year is tough. We treat every year differently. We focus on every year differently. So that's how it ended up this year too.
Indiana dominated. They had the most shots in goal, but at the end of the day, are those the shots that are converted into goals that gets you the cup? And that's exactly what Wisconsin did during the penalty shootout. Converted 4 penalties to become the Big Ten tournament champions here in Indiana soil. However, on Monday, good news came to IU coach Todd Yeagley and his Hoosier side after finding out they will be the number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament and will be bringing back their soccer to Bloomington.
Well, we're excited. We had a good feeling we would be in position for a top 4 seed. The body of work this group has done, I think deserves that. So from there, it all comes down to you expect to have great matches this time of the year, no matter who you play. What we want to do is take out all the things that we can't control. And a lot of that is if you travel and you have tough environments or climates or field conditions, that's a factor that, may be an equalizer. So when it's at home, everything's there for us, it's familiar, and now we just got to perform.
IU will match up against the winner between Old Dominion and NC State on Sunday, November 19th.
A huge crowd is expected for IU's debut in the tournament, following an announcement by IU Athletic Director Fred Glass on social media, stating IU students can watch the Hoosiers debut for free at Bill Armstrong Stadium.
IU men's and women's swim and dive teams hosted their home opener this past week. Our Drew Fry has the story.
The men's and women's Indiana swim and dive teams were back home for the first time this season as they hosted Notre Dame and Cincinnati in a dual meet. And they were glad to be home.
I think it was really nice. We saw their stands are all packed with parents, fans. So it's always nice to feel like they're cheering, and we really appreciate the support.
Looking to stay undefeated, the men's team did not disappoint the home crowd, winning 9 events. In the men's 200 freestyle, IU had swimmers finish first, second, and third place. In diving, Michael Hickson led the way for IU as he swept both events and posted the 6th best score in Hoosier history in the 3-meter dive. Regardless, he and the rest of the team are constantly looking to improve.
I mean, definitely something we can build on, I think, for sure. Like I said, it was consistent. Nothing was lights out. Nothing to build on for sure. There's more to be had. But I was very happy with it today.
On the women's side, the Hoosiers had no problem defeating unranked Cincinnati, but were barely beat out by 18-ranked Notre Dame. Some highlights came from diver Jessica Parado, who won both her events while posting season-high scores. Lily King also impressed, showing off her breaststroke in both of her races on her way to picking up 2 more wins.
I know nobody can swim breaststroke with me, so I usually know if I'm not down by pretty much over a body length after the backstroke, I'll be fine.
Unfortunately for the team, this meet marks the 3rd consecutive dual meet in which the women have lost to one of their 2 opponents. The team is hoping to rally around some of the veterans as they prepare to compete against rival Purdue.
I think part of it's that they listen to me a little bit more than some other people. Maybe, they can relate to me better because I'm their age, but, I'm really just reiterating what the coaches are saying because, in the end, they know what's best. And, hopefully I can reach out to them and be sort of a mentor, but ultimately I'm just relaying the coach's message.
For IUS TV Sports, I'm Drew Fry.
The Hoosiers will be back in action this week when they travel to West Lafayette to compete in the Early Bird Invitational.
The women's basketball team looked to go 2-0 on this young season as they hosted Southern University Tuesday night. Beat reporter Dan Black was at Simon Scott Assembly Hall to take in the spectacle.
Tuesday night marked coming-out games for 2 IU women's basketball players in their 64-49 victory over Southern University. Freshman guard Benduyeni found her stroke offensively, notching another double-digit scoring outing with 11 points, while also doing work defensively, grabbing 6 rebounds.
She just has composure about her and a self-confidence that she doesn't exude, but when you watch her play, you know it's there.
The biggest factor of the game, though, was from junior forward Kim Royster. Royster knew she would be asked to play a bigger role this season and shined in her larger role, finishing with 14 points and 15 rebounds, just her 2nd career double-double.
To go in there and rebound. It was just a very physical game on the offensive end, so I just tried to do what I had to do to help us get extra possessions and things like that.
The Hoosiers will look to go 3-0 on the season Friday night when they host Western Kentucky at 7 p.m. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Dan Black.
That game against Western Kentucky will be broadcast on BTN+. You can also catch the WIUX broadcast on 99.1 FM. The Archie Miller era of Indiana basketball began last Friday when they hosted the Indiana State Sycamores. Our Zain Pyarali was at Assembly Hall to catch the action.
There was optimism and excitement in the air as the Hoosiers began a new era of Indiana basketball. But then it quickly faded. Indiana State went 10 of 15 from beyond the arc in the first half, and Indiana found themselves down 21 at the break.
Knew coming into the game how difficult it was going to be. Understood that they had a lot of pieces in there that were going to give us some trouble. An incredible shooting performance. Hats off to those guys. They came in and did the job. No excuses.
The Hoosiers themselves could never put a run together as they shot just 22% from 3 and turned the ball over 19 times, resulting in 34 Sycamore points. That combination led to the first IU home opening loss in 33 years.
Offensively, we never got the ball moving. We never moved it from side to side and got, second and third side actions. And, when that happens, it makes the offensive flow stagnant. so to speak. And a lot of the shots were tough shots, and we just never got into a rhythm until late into the game.
Obviously, this wasn't the start Indiana was looking for to begin the season, and Archie Miller said this is a reality check for his team. But at the same time, they can only take the positives out of this game moving forward.
We're soft.
How frustrating is that?
We're soft we're just a soft team. You don't have to sugarcoat it at all. We have to go through these battles like we did tonight, and we got to get better from it and find a way to have some good possessions on both ends. But I just think in general, our resolve, the toughness, you're not going to give up 90 points at home in your home opener if you're playing hard as hell.
Since that loss to Indiana State, IU has faced off against Howard and number 23 Seton Hall. To give us his thoughts on those games as well as games to come is IUS-TV men's basketball beat reporter Zain Pyarali.
Thanks for joining us today, Zain. We're going to first back it up a little bit before we talk about the start of the season. I want to know, what were some of the expectations coming into this season?
Well, for me, I think some of the expectations were a team that was going to be a little bit rusty to start off. You have a new head coach coming in, still learning the system. They didn't really get a whole lot of time in the offseason to gel together. And then finishing in the Big Ten anywhere from 7th to 10th place, I think, realistically, and then being a bubble team for the NCAA tournament. But I think after these first couple of games, we see that this team still has a long way to go before they can be NCAA tournament contenders.
So going back to these expectations, do you think ultimately they're going to be realistic or not necessarily?
Yeah, I think so. You've seen Archie Miller take teams at Dayton that have less talent than at IU to numerous NCAA tournaments and even an Elite Eight appearance. So even though they lost three of their top 4 scorers last year, James Blackman Jr., Thomas Bryant, and OG Anunoby, you still expect this team to compete, especially when they play teams like Indiana State, which didn't necessarily happen in the season opener after losing by 21.
Now you've seen them play in 3 games now. What are your initial takeaways?
Well, I think they need to tighten up on the defense. Opponents are shooting 51% from 3 in 3 games against them, and they're also losing the turnover differential by 3 in these 3 games, and that's necessarily where Indiana was at last year. They averaged 15 turnovers a game last year. Through the first 3 games, they're at 16, so we haven't really seen a major jump in that. And then also, the front court depth is very, very slim. Against Seton Hall, Deron Davis only played 15 minutes because he got in foul trouble. He fouled out of the game, was 2 for 3 from the field, 4 points, 1 rebound. And that's just not going to cut it, especially with Colin Hartman being out. Indiana's front court depth, very slim. Justin Smith's been able to slide in. You've had Freddie McSwain, but ultimately you want to get more production out of Deron, especially with the offseason transformation he went through with losing all that weight.
Definitely. And that brings it back to Coach Archie Miller. We've seen him now coach his first 3 games here. What are some of your takeaways from his coaching, and how do you think he's done in his first 3 games?
Well, I like his coaching style, especially because you saw in that second game against Howard, really, I thought Aljamain Durham and Justin Smith were the 2 best players on the court for Indiana in those 2 games, and they were rewarded. They got a lot of minutes, a bulk of the minutes, and then going into the Seton Hall game, they got the start. So I think Archie Miller realizes that. He sees who's going to play hard in practice. He's brought that gold jersey mentality to practice, where if you're playing the hardest in practice and you're working the hardest, you get the gold jersey. You don't have to run sprints. So I think that's a little extra incentive. He's just got to get these guys communicating a little bit, working together as a team, playing together as a collective unit, because they're not right now.
And looking at their court play, what is going to be the key to finding that communication and making them more collective?
Well, I think it starts from their senior backcourt with Robert Johnson and Josh Newkirk. These guys have been okay through the first 3 games in the season, but they still have some room to grow, and that's not necessarily what you want to hear from your seniors, because these are the guys that are expected to lead the team. Now, I think whenever they get Colin Hartman back, he's going to go a long way, because he helps them kind of with the communication aspect. He helps them space the floor a little bit, gives them another extra weapon out there that can step out and hit a 3. So I think they're going to be all right. It's just going to take some time, but they don't really have a whole lot of time, because after Thanksgiving break, their schedule ramps up big time, starting with Duke at home.
They have a tough, long road ahead of them for sure. With possibly Colin coming back, if Juwan is able to stay healthy, what do you think long-term is the expectations that we should be seeing?
Well, I think we should still expect a team that's going to finish middle of the road in the Big Ten. The Big Ten is going to be a tough conference. It's always a tough conference year in and year out. But I think at the end of the day, they might make the NCAA tournament. It's still kind of a far stretch, because they have a lot of work to do, as you've seen through the first 3 games. It starts on defense, and I think that they are getting they're getting better at defense. But at the same time, there's a step that needs to take. They need to take the next step, and that starts with communication, being connected. Teams can't go out and shoot and make 17 threes against them. That's just not acceptable. So it all starts on the defensive end. When you're playing good defense, it leads to good offense. Saw it in the first half against Seton Hall. They were forcing turnovers. They got a lot of points off turnovers. Second half, they turned the ball over a lot, and Seton Hall got a lot of points off turnovers. That was the difference.
I think you're exactly right, and hopefully we can expect some better things moving forward. Be sure that you can make it out to Assembly Hall this Sunday to see the team in action against South Florida.
An underappreciated team here on the IU campus earned a major title over the weekend. The Indiana rugby team secured their third straight Big Ten championship when they took down Ohio State 38-36. This victory caps off another undefeated Big Ten season for the Hoosiers, who had a regular season record of 7-0. Indiana wraps up their fall season ranked 6th in the nation. When Hoosier Sports Night continues, we hear the story behind one of the most interesting nicknames in Indiana athletics. And we take a look at the week that was in Hoosier sports. You're watching Hoosier Sports Night.
Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night. It's no secret how successful the IU men's soccer team has been this season. Coach Yeagley and his team went undefeated on the regular year until reaching the Big Ten championship. While their play on the field and their pure talent is one of the biggest reasons for their number 2 seed, perhaps another factor is the team's camaraderie, seen most evidently in the nicknames that they give one another. Gronk, Magic, Sid the Kid. It's not uncommon for athletes to have nicknames on the court or field, and Indiana men's soccer is no exception. Austin Poncho goes by Ponch, Rashard Hyacinth goes by Shoddy, but Isaac Frent has perhaps the most unique nickname on the team.
My nickname that I go by here is Goose, and everyone just calls me that around here.
I mean, he never really said I'd rather be called Isaac, so we always ask what would you want to be called, and Goose was it. I have a hard time actually saying Isaac when I see him. It's just Goose.
Actually, when I was on a visit here, that's how he introduced himself, as Goose.
While most of the players' nicknames originate from their given names, Goose has no clear origin, of which Isaac knows.
I've been Goose since I was a baby, so personally I have no recollection of what it originates from. My parents think it came from them just calling me Silly Goose, and it got cut down to Goose.
I said, he goes, it's a long story. It was when I was young. So I just said, all right. That's the most unique one in the sense that it has really nothing to do with his name. And Goose there's no correlation with Isaac Frent on how Goose can come about.
All I know is that his parents gave him the nickname.
Do you have any guess as to where it might have come from?
Maybe the bird. I don't really know. He doesn't really know.
So whatever the origin is, known or unknown, the Indiana men's soccer team seems to have unlocked the secret to team chemistry. Just another reason for their great success.
It's been a busy week in IU athletics. From the hardwood to the gridiron and more, here's a look at the week that was.
We're soft. I mean, we're just a soft team.
just excited for the match. Hopefully we can get the trophy on Sunday.
Again, 3 times in penalties, it feels like it's the same thing, and all these guys really want to hold a trophy. So luckily we have one left.
With Thanksgiving right around the corner, students are looking to gobble up mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, and of course, turkey.
But students are also looking to gobble up those Crimson Guard rewards points. Here are the upcoming events to earn your very own Crimson Guard rewards points.
That's all we have for you this week, and unfortunately we'll be off for the next 2 weeks. But don't forget to like our page, IUSTV Sports, on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter at IUSTV Sports. For Michael Tilka, I'm Lydia Knoll. Have a happy Thanksgiving.